Hi there and welcome back to Vietnam, where we're temporarily presenting the Baka Breakdown from, well, I'm on sort of holiday here at the moment. Now, today we're going to be starting our listen through to another BAND-MAID album. Now, after listening to the most recent album, World Domination, and the EP as well that went with that, which was, well, just after that, which was the Band Micro EP, and then we went all the way back and listened to the very first Made in Japan record they did as well. And, you know, so many singles in between. We've done a lot of BAND-MAID. But this is an interesting one because obviously the first album we heard, I kind of enjoyed it because, yes, in a lot of ways it lacked the musical complexity and musicianship they have in their more recent works. And obviously as it was written for them, you had less of the telltale signs of their own writing style that we're so used to now. However, I did like it for having quite a bit of variation in the tracks that were available, and I did think the pop sensibility, the sort of pop rock sense, although apparently that doesn't appeal to a lot of fans, I thought it was really nice. It had its harder tracks, but it was also kind of fun in places. Now, we're moving on to the second album now, which is New Beginning, I believe. Now, the name, I think, is quite telling. Now, as we've already done quite a lot of BAND-MAID songs already, you guys will know that the first track, Thrill, is one of the songs that we've already covered on the Baka Breakdown. We listened to the, we watched the video to that. So as a result, I'm going to be jumping straight into listening to track 2, Freezer. However, what I need to point out here is that it's quite obvious if you take the tone of Thrill, the name of this album, New Beginning, and you compare that to what we heard on their first album, you kind of have to work from the assumption that this is them trying to assert more of a rocky image. Now, that's probably just from the reaction they got to their first stuff. Maybe people just liked them when they were doing their heavier things. Also, a little bit their own attitude. I get the feeling they kind of enjoyed the idea of doing that as well. This album, I believe, is still one of the ones that's written for them by staff writers, although I know they have some involvement. This is not one that's written by the actual girls from BAND-MAID themselves. So I'm not expecting it to be in line with what we now know them to be, as Thrill as a song is not, even though it's heavier. It doesn't sound a lot like the sort of, like I say, the stereotypical writing style that they have. I say stereotype, you know what I mean, the signature writing style they have. However, it's clear that they're going in a rocky direction. Now, Thrill's the first track, Real Existence is the third track. So I'm going to be starting on Freezer, and then after that I'll be jumping over to number 4 because I've basically done those famous ones already. Anyway, enough waffle from me. Let's get straight into it. So this is our album review of New Beginning, and obviously if you want to check out any of the songs that on this album that you've already reviewed, like Thrill, if you want to go back to the beginning, then in the description below you'll find a playlist for basically I'll listen through to this entire album, including the tracks I've already done. So Thrill will be there if you want to go back and check that out before this. But if not, here we go straight in with Freezer. Heavy on the riffs. You know it's going to be metal, this one.
まどろんでるよ僕が顔鏡の中ありえない私がそうで言うであいつと別れたんだちょっぴりへこんでる I will see by freezer 震えておこうか時に勇気あってもいい私の表現でもいいゴーラッと結させましょういつかこんなもんこんな粉に
So the chorus is pretty good. It's good for an album track. It's not amazing. I think the riff is really carrying this song most of all at the moment. And good vocal performance, as always. That vocal interplay is actually making the chorus much more interesting than it otherwise would be. I think this whole song is a good demonstration of why as a band, we often say in the comments as well, this band are primarily skilled at their rhythm beyond their melody. God, I love a wah-wah solo. Nice to have the little bell there on the cymbals in the last chorus. That's a really interesting one, because obviously after the way that they've started off with Thrill, which I'm assuming you guys have heard before, and like I say, if not, then please go back and check out that review as well. It will be in the playlist below. Yeah, I think that, again, this is another riff-heavy song like Thrill was. Now, the good side of that is it makes it really impactful and really kind of appealing if you're a hard rock or especially a metal fan, that you're going to feel really involved in this. Like, yeah, this is a really rocking album. It's more definite about the direction it wants to go in than perhaps the first album was, Made in Japan. However, the interesting thing is that this one, at the moment, I know there's more coming up, and for example, I know track 3, Real Existence, is a much more melodic song than the two that have come directly before it. I would say that by this point, if I was listening to all of these tracks for the first time, I would be thinking that this album was a bit more of a one-trick pony than their first album, Made in Japan, was, which is quite surprising, actually, because in a way it shows development in the side of musicianship. I mean, this already is sounding like a much more skillfully played album, but it doesn't seem to have the melodic complexity at the beginning. However, I know that's going to change. I know we got tracks on this album towards the end, like Don't Let Me Down, that I've already heard. Things like Real Existence coming up in the next track. We're going to skip over that because I've already done that as well. Obviously, though, like I said, if you check out our album listen through playlist, you'll be able to see my initial reaction. Actually, Real Existence was the very first BAND-MAID song I ever heard. So hearing that as the next video is going to be quite interesting because I'll sound completely out of my depth. However, yeah, this album is starting off in a very sort of simple stripped-back rock sense. I think with this, I like the riff. The riff was good. It stayed entertaining all the way through the end. It was a surprisingly simple riff, but it didn't get tiresome, which was nice. They split it up with the vocals were good, as is sometimes the case with BAND-MAID. The rhythm was so strong that it kind of made up for the melody maybe not being as original as it could have been. But, you know, we are still looking at an album track, but it is an album track they've stuck right at the beginning between two singles. So this is a song that clearly they had very high expectations for, even if it wasn't a single. Personally, I would say this is one of those sort of prime examples of a song that if it came on, I certainly wouldn't turn it off. But I don't know if I'd especially go listening for it directly, especially given their portfolio of songs. I would say this doesn't quite strike as interesting enough to stand out from the BAND-MAID repertoire. However, yeah, it's a good rocker. It's a good solid rocker. It doesn't get boring as well, which these sort of riff-centric songs sometimes can do. I think the chorus is enough to break things up. Like I say, it's not enough to sort of stand out as a wow, that's a catchy, memorable chorus, but it's enough to stand out and make you go, yeah, that was all right, actually. That was a nice break. That, you know, breaks up all of the headbanging quite well. And like I said, the vocal interplay was really interesting in this as well. Sometimes, I got to admit, when you've just got a song where Psyche's singing on her own or just Miku's singing on her own, it's kind of easy to tell them apart. But on a produced recording, when they sing together, sometimes I find it hard to pick apart their voices. I think they're produced in a very similar way and they end up with quite a similar sound, which is perhaps not indicative of how they actually sound live. A lot of you guys have mentioned that the production that BAND-MAID use for the vocals is quite thin, which therefore takes a lot of power out of Psyche's voice, so as to give, I think, a lot of that space. I would say they're doing that to give a lot more space over the very thick guitar sounds in a lot of their songs. So in this case, I don't know whether that was just a multi-track of Psyche or whether that was Psyche and Miku singing together, or even any of the other members, for all I know. However, whatever vocal interplay was happening there was working really well, and I think it gave a lot of life to the song. Often when you hear multiple voices in a song, or just, you know, sort of more than one straight lead vocal, it adds a sort of a thickness to it, adds more of a group element. It feels like there's more than one person involved, which I know sounds like a ridiculous thing, but if you think about it, just sort of the psychological tingle of hearing more than one voice kind of makes it sound more like you're in a bigger room. So that worked. This, in a lot of ways, this could have crumbled into being something very generic. You know, I mean, let's face it, if you've got like a heavy kick-based beat, you've got a simple melody, and you've got a riff at the front, which is doing most of the work, you can very easily slip into Nickelback territory. However, it was the little shines that made this work. The little, it wasn't their usual sort of modern over musicianship thing where they really fill in every little gap. However, there was just enough flair, just enough attention to detail, just enough vocal interplay, just enough to make this actually quite interesting and give it an identity and save it from potentially just being a sort of a bland album filler. So I liked it. Like I say, wouldn't necessarily go hunting for it, but certainly enjoyed it. Now, as always, if you guys want to check out more than like I say, you can either jump on straight, or if you've seen my previous reviews before and you've been following the channel, then jump straight through to Price of Pride, which is going to be the next one I'm recording in this chronologically. However, if you're doing this as the full album playlist review, then you'll be checking out that link in the description below, or you're just watching it in the playlist right now, which means the next one you'll be listening to will be my review of Real Existence, which was the very first BAND-MAID song I ever heard, going back quite a few months, or best part of a year now actually. So yeah, as always though, this channel is about discussion. I give my informed opinion, but it's subjective opinion, so get in there, tell us what you think in the comments, like, dislike, subscribe, whatever you want to do. If you want to get further into the discussion and add to our, maybe suggestions and things, then you can come along to our Discord and our Reddit, which are linked in the description below as well. We got our Facebook, we got our Twitter, and if you're really enjoying what we do, then get on that Patreon, because we don't get paid anything for doing this channel. So anyway, as always, thank you so much for tuning in today. Have a lovely day, and hopefully you'll be seeing us soon on more of our videos. But until then, for now, from Vietnam, ciao ciao.